guys, what's up? Welcome back to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking the video out and spending some time with me today. Always very grateful for that. Guys, today we're going to be giving tips and advice on how to catch bass on cloudy days. Now, not necessarily rainy days, but just days where you got complete overcast. You may or may not have seen it, but this morning I posted a video on catching bass on sunny days. So we're going to follow that up with a cloudy weather video, and also I'll attach that link to that video I did this morning in the description if you guys want to get a little flavor on both scenarios there. Also, guys, before we get started, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder of the new summer sales going on at Tackle Warehouse. If you guys are looking to stock up on some equipment, now's a good time to get some really good deals. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description if you guys want to use that and bookmark that link. It's a good way to support the channel, and me and my family really appreciate that. So thank you very much for it. Okay, guys, cloudy weather, man. To be honest with you, I prefer fishing in cloudy weather. It's like almost without exception, you're going to find that in cloudy weather, bass are a little bit more active, with the exception of certain different scenarios. First of all, before we get into the video, I want to talk about how bass react to cloudy weather conditions, and then we're going to get into some specific techniques. But what you're going to find as far as the best case scenario for fishing in cloudy weather are those days where, say for example, you've had some pretty stable weather and you've had a week of clear or partly cloudy skies, and then all of a sudden you got some type of a frontal passage or a front on approaching, and you get an overcast day, especially if you have an overcast day that has a south wind on it. Those are really conducive to getting the fish to bite and moving and biting, reaction lures and power fishing. And they chase. Depending upon water temperature and water clarity, they will chase, in a lot of different depth zones. But also what you're going to find is if you have an extended period of cloudy weather, let's say some type of a stationary front, locks in on your region and it's cloudy for like a week or something, it has a negative effect. Actually, day after day after day of cloudy weather, it turns the fish off a little bit and it makes them do completely opposite things than when it just clouds up for the first time, the first day or two. So that's a big factor there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the pluses and minuses as far as how bass react and how you need to really approach cloudy conditions. Here in general, this is what you're going to have. We talk about this a lot on the channel as far as everything is in relationship to water temperature and water clarity and water level. And it's no different than when you're dealing with the cloudy days. If you have a spectrum, let's say on one end of the spectrum, you're dealing with a body of water that's got, dirty water, specifically like dirty, colder water on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have clear and a little bit warmer water. And then everything else in between, super clear, super dirty on this side of the spectrum. Almost without exception, the clouds are going to benefit you the more you get towards the clear water scenarios there. Bass react positively, or they get more aggressive, that is, anytime that you have clouds in a cleaner water environment. It doesn't have to be crystal clear, but I'm talking about water visibilities of over 3 feet. If you have water visibility of over 3 feet, and you've got clouds, most of the time it's going to activate those bass, especially when those clouds first roll in. And it doesn't really even matter with the water temperature. I mean, wintertime is not that big of it has least effect in the winter, because the wintertime with the cold water and everything, sometimes the sun is a little bit better. We talked about that in this morning's video, but a lot of times the winter is relative to the part of the country you're in. So if you fish South Georgia in January, you may still have 55, 58, 60 degree water. So it's not going to be the same as if you were fishing in that 40 degree water. But in general, you're going to find the fish get more active the cleaner and the warmer the water in correlation with the cloud cover. Now, what this means is anytime that you have cloud cover and you've got this water visibility of over 3 feet, the bass will chase a lure a lot more. It's like the lower light conditions make them make mistakes. They don't feel quite as nervous or aware, and they tend to make a lot more mistakes when it's cloudy out. Lower light, lower visibility for them. They can't see quite as well, and it just makes them a little bit more aggressive. So on cloudy days, when you have a clear water situation, based upon your water temperature, I like to stay with my moving baits. Topwater lures, if the water temperatures are over like 65 degrees, And if the water temperatures are under 65 degrees, I'm using some type of a power bait, like a spinner bait, a big swim bait, a glide bait, a crank bait, chatter bait, any swim jig, anything like that. Anything that you can reel through the water column. It's going to be really, really good for that, especially if you have it combined with a little bit of wind. Now, the wind is all relative to the technique, because let's say, for example, if you're fishing a walking topwater lure, obviously on a cloudy day, that's going to be really good conditions if your water's clear, but you don't necessarily want wind for that. But if you're fishing a spinner bait or a chatter bait and you've got a cloudy day and some clear water, the wind is really going to help you out. If I could give you like a perfect scenario as far as the best conditions to go fishing in, it would be on a cloudy day when you've got water temperatures, say in the upper 50s or in the 60s, and you've got wind, maybe a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind that comes out of the south, and the air temperatures are either normal or a little bit above average. When you put those scenarios together about the clear water, the warm water, the clouds, all that type of stuff together, usually adds up to some really good fishing. And like I said, I like to stay with the power baits anytime that it's cloudy. Very seldom, if you have a mix of cloud and wind, will they not hit power baits. Now, what happens if you have that? Let's talk a little bit about that extended period of clouds. If you have an extended period of clouds, or if you happen to have like a thunderstorm that rolls through while it's cloudy and you got some lightning and thunder, the fish will react completely different. They will not chase like they would under the other situations. They lock down more to the bottom. So one of the things that I found out that'll help you out is if you have like it's been cloudy for 4 or 5 days or something like that, start fishing on the bottom. Pitch and flip in your heavier cover around docks, lay down trees, fish, the bottom baits like a shaky head, a Ned rig, a drop shot, a football head jig. Those fish will lock down on the bottom and stay on the bottom if it's been cloudy for several days out there. That's one of the hard lessons I learned. And another thing about, if it's been cloudy for a long time and stormy a little bit, some of the best days I've ever had flipping have came on those cloudy, nasty days after it's been cloudy for a long time. Those fish tuck up and get really, really tight to that cover. Sort of like a paradox, because on one hand, the fish get active and chase and roam around in open water if it's cloudy, except with the exception of that situation I just talked about. And that's another thing. We're talking about roamers. Anytime that you have a cloudy situation out there, and again, the clouds that have just rolled in, the bass will scatter and they roam more. They're not as related to cover as much. So if you have a cloudy day, don't necessarily think that you have to focus on fishing around any type of traditional targets like lay down trees or grass beds or stumps or anything like that. The fish a lot of times will just get out and roam. They'll get out on open banks and just go down those banks, and that's a really good way to catch them in those lower light conditions. Now, one of the negative things about it, if you get some situations where you have dirty water and the water's a little bit cooler and it's cloudy, that can be extremely tough. Fishing can be tough under those situations. So if you've got a deal where the water temperature is under 60 degrees and your water visibility is under like 1.5 feet, say you've got like 6 inches to 15 inches of water visibility, during those scenarios out there, the clouds are not your friend. It's like those type of situations, a lot of times the sun is better. It activates those fish better. It gets them closer and positions them on cover. But if you do get a situation like that where it's cloudy and you're in a dirty water situation and the water temperature is a little bit cooler, try to fish some type of a big lure that displaces a lot of water. A big bladed spinnerbait, a chatterbait, a large square bill crankbait, a big full-size jig. All those lures that displace a lot of water can be really good. And if you get a situation where it's dirty water and it's cloudy and the water's warm, that can be some pretty decent fishing. And under those situations, that's when I'm usually using some type of reaction power bait. Again, speed crank in a shallow running crankbait, chatterbait, something like that. It's pretty good. But overall, I like fishing in the clouds. I mean, if you gave me my choice of the matter, I would take a cloudy day over most any day. And I've actually even done pretty good, on cloudy days, in the wintertime too. And I talked a lot about, the sun, can actually help some stuff out. But again, it's all relative to water temperature. So, Anyway, that's just a few foundational tips to remember when it's cloudy out there. Ultimately, you just have to let the fish tell you what they want, because almost without exception, when you go to a lake and you have a game plan, say for example, you try some of the stuff I just mentioned about cloudy water techniques, a lot of times the fish don't listen to those YouTube videos, or they don't read books or anything like that. A lot of times you just have to experiment. And if I could give you one piece of advice in bass fishing, is don't be afraid to experiment. If you've got something on your mind that you think might work, don't worry if it's cloudy or sunny or rainy or windy or calm or whatever. Just give it a try. It doesn't hurt to try something for 10 or 15 minutes. If it works, great. You may learn something. If it doesn't, no big deal. But guys, I probably think half of the techniques that I have learned on my own, as far as developed specific techniques, it has come through me experimentation. And the experimentation can be just random. I mean, I've caught a lot of fish. Let's say that I was out fishing and I was fishing a jig with a chunk on it, some type of plastic trailer, and I may have forgot my plastic trailers at home, and I had one laying in the boat that wasn't the right color, and tied it on, and all of a sudden started catching fish on it. Bass will hit a lot of different stuff. They will hit a lot of different lure profiles and categories and colors. So don't be afraid to experiment and just try stuff off the wall once in a while. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.